April 8th, 1943, 21:17 hours. Amsterdam, German-occupied Netherlands. The canal outside the Jordan is a strip of black glass, barely rippling under a wind that smells like damp brick and coal smoke. Somewhere far off, a bicycle chain clicks fast and fades. Not drunken soldiers. This is the careful, measured pace of men who are hunting. Inside a narrow upstairs room, the only light is a slit of orange leaking from a curtain pinned too tight. Hendrik van der Meer keeps his hands off the transmitter for a beat longer than he should. He listens. Because in this line of work, the most dangerous moment isn't sending. It's deciding to. The headphones press his ears flat. In the background, a faint crackle, the ocean of static that swallows voices and spits them out distorted. Then, through it, a sound that makes his stomach drop. A melody. Not the official German station. Not the BBC. This is local close broadcast strength that doesn't belong on the dial at this hour. A song that shouldn't exist. Hendrik's eyes flick to the window. The curtain doesn't move. But he feels the building around him, the way old Amsterdam houses creak as if they're breathing. Hendrik doesn't move. The melody continues sweet, almost careless. And underneath that sweetness, Hendrik hears it. The pattern. 3 notes held too long. A pause that's half a second too deliberate. Then the chorus starts early wrong like a singer stepping ahead of the band. To anyone else, it's a mistake. Just grocery lists and numbers and one page written in tiny, careful shorthand. He weights his thumb, flips to the page, and tracks the code with a pencil point. The mistakes in timing and pitch, those are the digits. The early chorus is the command. Evacuation. Tonight. Hendrik closes his eyes for a fraction of a second, because he sees what this means without needing to read further. A safe house has been compromised, where a mother teaches her daughter to stay silent by turning it into a game, where a boy keeps asking why he can't go outside, and every answer tastes like a lie. 100 people, give or take Jews, hidden across Amsterdam and the villages north of it, moved like contraband, parceled out among farmers and widows and printers. A network built on whispered trust. Now a single broadcast is telling him the network is about to be cut open. This time they don't pass. They come toward the building. Hendrik's throat tightens. He forces his breathing slow, like the old instructor taught him during his brief training with the Dutch underground. Panic is noise, and noise gets you killed. He turns the radio dial a hair, just enough to confirm the frequency. A certain word is replaced. A synonym, but not the right one. That substitution is the name, not a person's name. A route. He scribbles it quickly. DIJK7 Bridge Nitrogen Monoxide Lanterns, Choir. It sits inside a suitcase on the table, wired to a battery under a blanket. The aerial threaded up behind the wardrobe and out through a vent to the roof. It's an illegal set, punishable by prison or a bullet, depending on the mood of the officer who finds it. It's also his only way to push instructions fast enough to outrun the Gestapo. He can send a warning to every cell leader in the chain. But if he transmits now, with a suspicious broadcast already on the air, and Hendrik doesn't just die, he takes everyone connected to him with him. Not the front door, the building's shared entry. Voices rise German, clipped, impatient. A landlord stammering in Dutch. Papers rustling. Gestapo. Sicherheitsdienst. Maybe Ordnungsbeleid with them for muscle. Hendrik's mouth goes dry. His eyes go to the tiny revolver taped under the table. A last resort. He doesn't touch it. Not yet. Instead, he reaches for something else. A record. It's not much black shellac, a civilian label, scratched and worn. The song on it is the same one playing on the illegal broadcast. He sets it on a gramophone beside the radio, the kind you'd expect in a modest room. A harmless, normal object. He winds it with 2 quick turns, gentle as if he's petting a cat that might bite. Then he lowers the needle. The room fills with music slightly off-speed, the warm crackle of a cheap needle. The melody now has a plausible source. If someone bursts in, they see a man listening to music, not a man copying a coded broadcast. He pulls the headphones off and hangs them on a hook. At the same time, he slips the notebook under a loose floorboard beside the bed, where dust and plaster crumbs stick to his fingertips. The boots are on the stairs now. The wood groans. Hendrik stands, adjusts his shirt like an office clerk, and takes a step toward the door. The key is in the lock from the inside. He turns it once, slowly, not because he wants to open it, but because he wants to control the moment. The music plays on. The song is sweet. The song is lethal. A fist pounds the door. Open. Now they know his name. That means they didn't come to check papers. They came for him. Hendrik's mind races through the web. Who broke? Who talked? Which drop was watched? Which courier got followed? The underground teaches you to accept arrests like weather unpredictable, deadly, never personal. But this feels personal. A song outside, no. The broadcast has to be connected. A trap? A warning? Both? He opens the door. Two men in dark coats stand in the narrow hallway, faces pale under hats brimmed low. One has the cold eyes of an interrogator. The other has a folder tucked under his arm, and the posture of someone who has been right too many times. Behind them, a Dutch policeman in uniform looks away, jaw clenched, ashamed or afraid. The interrogator steps forward and breathes in, as if smelling the room. "You enjoy music, Herr van der Meer?" he says, and his smile doesn't reach his eyes. Hendrik forces a small laugh. "It helps me sleep." The second man glances past Hendrik into the room. His eyes pause on the gramophone, then drift to the radio on the shelf, an innocent-looking box, because Hendrik has the illegal set hidden and the legal receiver displayed like a decoy. The man taps the folder with one finger. "We received information," he says softly, "that you have unusual interests." Hendrik's heart thuds. He keeps his face neutral. "I'm an accounts clerk," Hendrik says. "My only interest is not freezing this winter." The interrogator chuckles. "Then you will not mind answering a few questions." He steps into the room without being invited. Hendrik pivots slightly, blocking the table by instinct. His body becomes furniture and obstacle, while his mind stays on the real emergency. The broadcast's message. Evacuation tonight. If Hendrik can't warn them, 100 people vanish into trains and smoke. But if he transmits, he may lead the Germans to the very routes he's trying to protect. The folder man sets it down on the table with deliberate care. Inside, photos. Hendrik recognizes one immediately grainy, taken from across the street. A woman carrying a basket. Another, a man on a bicycle with a satchel. Another, the corner of a church doorway. Resistance couriers. His couriers. The interrogator watches Hendrik's eyes track the photos, and Hendrik realizes too late. They're measuring what he reacts to. So he forces his gaze away, lands it on the least dangerous image, and shrugs. "Who are these people?" he asks. The interrogator leans closer, voice lowering. "People who will suffer," he says, "unless you help us." The folder man opens the last page and turns it toward Hendrik. A photo of a little girl, maybe 8, hair in braids, looking directly at the camera as if she's trying to be brave. Hendrik's stomach drops so hard it feels like falling. The folder man speaks like he's reading a grocery list. "This child," he says, "was seen entering a building where she does not belong." The interrogator's smile returns, thin as wire. "You will tell us," he says, "about the Jews you are hiding." The same melody that carries salvation is now echoing through a room where the Gestapo is tightening its hands around Hendrik's throat. Hendrik looks at the child's photo. 100 lives, 1 radio. And the men in front of him already know enough to kill the network. He takes a slow breath, then nods just slightly like a man about to cooperate. "All right," Hendrik says. "I'll show you." The interrogator's eyes gleam, and Hendrik reaches for the radio. Hendrik's hand settles on the radio the way a pianist's hand settles on a keylight, familiar, controlled. He doesn't look at the hidden transmitter suitcase. He doesn't even glance toward the wardrobe. And he lets his fingers linger as if he's about to demonstrate a harmless hobby. The interrogator shifts his weight, impatient. The folder man stays still, watching the details the direction of Hendrik's eyes, the tremor in his wrist, the speed of his breathing. These men don't need you to confess. They need you to move like someone who has something to lose. Hendrik turns the tuning knob. Static, a German march. A voice reading casualty lists like a lullaby. He turns again. More static. He makes it look like he's searching for something mundane dance music, a comedy bit, anything. Then he stops at the melody. The same Dutch love song, floating out of the speaker with that too clean signal, that wrong confidence, like someone shouting from the next street over. The song that brought him the evacuation order. The interrogator's eyes sharpen. "This one?" Hendrik gives a small shrug, casual. "People like it. It's familiar." "And you listen to it," the folder man says, not asking. Hendrik lets the slightest smile touch his mouth. "My mother used to hum it when I was a boy." The interrogator steps closer. Close enough Hendrik can smell the man's breath coffee and cigarettes, a hint of peppermint. Close enough to make a man lean back. Hendrik doesn't. "You will show us," the interrogator says again, "how you communicate with your friends." Hendrik turns his head as if considering the best way to obey. He lets his gaze drift to the gramophone, to the record spinning, then back to the radio. He knows what they think they've found, a coded broadcast used by the resistance. It's the kind of thing the Germans love, proof that makes them feel clever, proof that makes them bold. So Hendrik gives them what they want, but not the truth. He reaches down and lifts the needle off the record. The room's warmth thins. The folder man tilts his head. "Why stop it?" Hendrik gestures at the radio. "Because the record is only the cover. The broadcast is the real thing." The interrogator's mouth curls. "Explain." Hendrik points to the radio speaker as if he's teaching a lesson. "You hear the melody. Everyone hears the melody. But the message is not the melody." He pauses, letting them lean in. "It's the mistakes." The interrogator's eyes flicker interest, hunger. Hendrik continues, carefully choosing words that sound precise without revealing anything that can be used. A held note. A pause. A chorus that starts too early. They are signals. "And you know this song well." "My mother," Hendrik says again, softening his voice as if it's memory, not strategy. "She sang it 100 times. The interrogator nods to the Dutch policeman in the hall. "Bring the van." The policeman hesitates, then moves, boots retreating down the stairs. A van. Direction-finding equipment, maybe. Or just transport. Either way, time tightens around Hendrik like a wire. The folder man opens the folder again and slides the photograph of the little girl forward, right onto the table, right into Hendrik's line of sight. The interrogator, Hendrik doesn't answer. The interrogator taps the photo. Tap, tap, each tap a metronome beat. "This song," the interrogator says, "is used to move your rats through our city. You will tell us where they go." Hendrik's mind is a furious silent sprint. He needs to warn the network. He needs to do it without transmitting. He needs to do it now. He needs to do it now. A second layer beneath the broadcast. Not just timing errors. Not just timing errors. That's Hendrik's eyes narrow. His heart slows. That's not human error. That's modulation. Someone is writing the song with a secondary message, so subtle it hides inside the music. It is a trick radio men use when they want information to slip past casual listeners. A tiny variation in amplitude, a tremble in the carrier. It's not for the ears. It's for someone with the right setup. For someone like Hendrik. He keeps his face blank. He reaches toward the radio again, as if to show them more. Under his fingers, he finds the back panel and slides it open. Inside, the simple guts of a legal receiver. And taped behind it exactly where a Gestapo searcher wouldn't. Look unless he knew radios Hendrik has hidden a small crystal filter and a coil he built himself. Not a transmitter, not illegal on its face. Just a better ear. He removes it, slowly, as if it's part of the demonstration. The interrogator watches, suspicious. What is that? The interrogator demands. A filter, Hendrik says, to clean the sound. He brings it to the table, sets it beside the folder. His fingers move with the calm of a man assembling a hobby project. Inside, he's counting beats. If he connects the filter, he can separate the flutter from the music, convert it into something visible, dots, dashes, a pattern, without transmitting a single watt. A one-way message. The safest kind. You expect us to believe this is for music? Hendrik looks up. You asked how it's done. The interrogator signals with a slight tilt of his head. The second man in the hallway steps into view Ordnungspolizei's rifle slung, the kind of guard whose job is to stand still and shoot when told. Do it, the interrogator says. Hendrik connects the filter to the radio's output leads. He adjusts a knob. The song continues, but now there's a faint tick in the background, like a distant telegraph key. He reaches into his desk drawer careful, slow, and pulls out a pencil and a sheet of paper. Harmless enough. He doesn't reach for the notebook under the floorboard. He doesn't need it. He begins to write. Not words, not yet. He marks short strokes and long strokes, spaced by the rhythm of the hidden flutter. To the Gestapo, it looks like nonsense. To Hendrik, it's a lifeline forming in graphite. Tick short, tick long. You can almost feel the cold sweat crawling down his spine as he writes right in front of them. They're watching him receive a message meant to save people they want dead. The interrogator frowns. What is that? Hendrik doesn't stop. The errors, he says, lying smoothly. I'm translating them. The folder man leans over the paper. Hendrik keeps his hand steady. He finishes the line, then without thinking his eyes flick to the window. The folder man notices the glance. Hendrik's stomach tightens. He forces his attention back to the code he's writing, because now it's clear this broadcast is not just warning him. It's warning him about this very moment. The dots and dashes resolve into letters. Not many, but enough. He translates silently, letting the message hit him like a slap. The song is ours. Hendrik's breath catches. He hides it with a cough. Ours, not the Germans. Someone in the resistance has seized the transmitter, hijacked a local line, or built a pirate station powerful enough to punch through the night. Someone is deliberately playing a song code while the Gestapo is in his room, using the music as a shield for instructions. The message continues, a second line forming under Hendrik's pencil. Let them hear IT. He keeps writing. Move the children first. Hendrik's throat tightens at that. Rivka's photo sits inches away. The folder man's finger rests on the corner of it as if he owns her. Hendrik finishes the last segment. You will walk out. Walk out. He nearly laughs, but it would come out as a sob. The interrogator snatches the paper before Hendrik can pull it back. He scans it, lips moving. He doesn't understand it. Not yet. This means nothing, the interrogator snaps. Hendrik shrugs, playing dumb. It's subtle. It takes time. A folder man's eyes drift from the paper to Hendrik's face, searching for the moment a man betrays himself. Hendrik gives him nothing, just a tired office clerk who's been caught in something he doesn't fully grasp. The interrogator makes the decision. You can see it in his jaw. Enough, he says. We take him in. We will have experts translate his scribbling. The guard steps forward. But the message said, "You will walk out." How? The interrogator gestures toward the table. Bring the photographs? Bring the radio. His hand goes to the legal receiver, not the hidden transmitter, not the suitcase. The decoy is doing its job. Hendrik swallows. If they start tearing up the room, they may find the floorboard. If they take him now, he can't warn anyone. Unless the song on the radio hits the chorus again. And it starts early. Wrong again? But this time, the mistake isn't subtle. It's blatant, almost theatrical, as if the singer has decided to shout the wrong line. The interrogator looks sharply at the radio, annoyed. "What is that?" he barks, as if the song is mocking him. Hendrik tilts his head, feigning confusion, but inside he understands. The pirate broadcaster is doing it on purpose, drawing the Germans' attention to the radio, making them focus on the song, on the code, on the idea that the resistance is communicating through music. A bright, shiny object for predators. A distraction? Downstairs, a car engine turns over. Another set of boots hurries in the entryway. Too many boots now, too fast. "That is not our van," he says quietly. The interrogator's head snaps toward him. "What?" A sharp crack echoes from the street outside, wood splintering. A shout in Dutch, then another voice, low and urgent. "Binnen." "New." "Inside." "Now." The guard by the door raises his rifle. Hendrik doesn't move. He can't. He's suddenly aware of every object in the room. The chair that could trip a man, the table edge that could break a hand, the window that could be an escape or a death drop. The interrogator steps toward the hallway, pistol half drawn. Another crack closer followed by a muffled thud, like a body hitting the stairs. The folder man backs up instinctively, eyes wide now for the first time. The radio keeps playing. The love song keeps smiling. And from below, the unmistakable sound of a submachine gun bolt, being racked, punches through the building like thunder. Hendrik's mouth goes dry, because whoever is coming up those stairs is not German police. And they came for him. The footsteps hit the first landing like a storm, fast, uneven, not the tidy cadence of a German patrol. Someone takes the stairs two at a time. Someone else moves slower, covering angles. A building's thin walls turn every sound into a threat. The interrogator yanks his pistol fully free. "Stay where you are," he snaps at Hendrik, but his eyes aren't on Hendrik anymore. They're on the doorway. The folder man's face has lost its color. He reaches into his coat like he's about to produce authority papers, orders, something that can stop whatever is coming. It won't. A voice rises from below, sharp Dutch, whispered but urgent. "Licht you it." Lights out. Before anyone in the room can react, the hallway bulb outside sputters, then dies. The stairwell plunges into darkness, so complete it feels physical, like a blanket thrown over your head. Only the radio remains. A dim orange glow behind its dial glass, a tiny artificial sunset. You can almost feel how the air changes. The Gestapo men tense, suddenly blind predators with their claws half raised. The guard at the door shifts his rifle, barrel tracking the black hallway. Then movement. A silhouette snaps into the doorway, low and compact, and the guard fires a reflex shot. The muzzle flash blooms white, briefly painting the walls, and in that instant Hendrik sees everything. The guard's face contorted, the interrogator's pistol angled wrong, the folder man flinching back, and the intruder's arm swinging a baton or a club. The rifle drops, clattering against the floorboards. Another shadow surges in behind the first and drives a shoulder into the guard's chest. The guard falls hard, choking on his breath. The interrogator fires once. The shot cracks like a whip in the small room, deafening. Plaster dust puffs from the wall near Hendrik's head. Hendrik doesn't duck, not because he's brave. A third figure appears, this one holding a compact submachine gun. A Sten by the shape of it, crude and British, and common in the underground. The figure doesn't spray. He doesn't panic fire. He points with discipline. Wapen weg. The newcomer commands, Dutch again. Drop the weapon. The interrogator swings his pistol toward the voice. The stand barks twice short bursts, controlled. The sound is brutal in the room. A hammer on your ribcage. The interrogator jerks, staggers, and slams into the table, knocking the folder open. Photographs scatter like dead leaves. He's not dead yet, Hendrik realizes. He's calculating. The folder man steps sideways, trying to place Hendrik between himself and the gun, using him like furniture. Hendrik's skin crawls. The man's coat brushes his sleeve cold, damp, real. A fourth intruder grabs Hendrik by the collar and yanks him backward hard. Hendrik stumbles, almost falls, but hands steady him, strong hands, familiar hands. Rustig. A woman's voice says close to his ear, "Calm down." Hendrik turns his head just enough to see her profile in the radio's dim glow. A scarf wrapped tight, hair pinned, eyes sharp as broken glass. He knows her. Anika de Jong. Courier, organizer, the kind of woman who could walk past a checkpoint with a basket of eggs and a detonator and look like she's thinking about supper. "You're late," Hendrik breathes, and it comes out half laugh, half something else. Anika's mouth twitches, almost a smile, but there's no time to spend on relief. "You're alive," she says. That's what matters. The folder man makes his move. He lunges for the radio of all things, snatching it off the shelf, as if it's evidence worth dying for. He pivots toward the window, perhaps thinking he can smash it and throw the set into the canal, erase the trail. A resistance man steps in, blocking him. The folder man pulls a small pistol from his coat, not the big service weapon of an officer, but a personal piece. He raises it at Anika. For a beat, the whole room holds its breath. Hendrik feels the world narrow to the black circle of that muzzle. Anika doesn't flinch. She steps forward anyway, eyes locked on the folder man, voice low. "Don't," she says, as if she's speaking to a child about to touch a stove. The folder man hesitates just a fraction, and that fraction costs him everything. A resistance fighter behind him hooks an arm around his neck and yanks him backward. The pistol discharges into the ceiling, blasting plaster down like snow. Someone slams the folder man's wrist against the wall. His gun clatters. The legal radio receiver thuds to the floor, its wooden case cracking. The song continues, distorted now, because the set speaker is damaged. The man is slumped over the table, face turned away, one hand twitching near his dropped pistol. He's not dead either. Not yet. He's trying to decide whether to keep fighting or to survive by being still. A resistance man broad shoulders. Cap low puts his boot on the interrogator's wrist and presses. The pistol slides away. "Hands where I can see them," the man growls in Dutch. The interrogator spits something in German. A curse. A promise. Anika grabs Hendrik's sleeve. "We move, now." Hendrik swallows. "The network." "I know," she cuts in. Hendrik's mind catches up, the pieces snapping together. "You're the one broadcasting." Anika nods once. "Not me. Joris." Joris. Joris Bakker, the engineer, who used to repair tram lines before the Germans took the copper and the trams stopped running on time. He'd been tinkering with transmitters for months, whispering about power output and antenna length like a priest murmuring prayer. Hendrik looks at the broken legal radio on the floor, at the song still bleeding from its cracked speaker. He realizes what Anika has done, what Joris has done. They didn't just send a warning. They staged a performance for the Gestapo. Let them hear it. Make them believe the code is the melody and the mistakes. Give them something to chase, while the real message rides beneath the music, invisible to anyone without Hendrik's filter. A decoy broadcast as a smokescreen for an evacuation. Hendrik's throat tightens. How many heard it? "Enough," Anika says. Every safe house contact with ears and courage heard it. and the ones who didn't. She doesn't finish. The resistance men begin moving fast. Another hauls the guard up by his coat and shoves him into the hallway. The whole operation is tight, practiced quick violence, minimal noise, no lingering. Hendrik notices something that chills him. None of them are celebrating. No one is smiling. Their eyes keep darting to the stairs, the windows, the street. Because a raid like this is a flare in the night. "Listen," she says, voice low enough that only Hendrik can hear. "Where is it?" Anika's gaze cuts to the interrogator, still slumped, breathing shallowly. In his coat or in his head? A resistance man yanks the interrogator upright. Anika steps toward him, her voice turning colder. "Where is the list?" Hendrik feels a sudden, terrifying clarity. Even if they save him tonight, the network might already be compromised at the top. Anika slaps him. Hard. The sound snaps through the room. "You're too late," he whispers. From outside faint, distant at first another sound rises. Not boots, engines. More than one vehicle, moving fast, tires on wet stone. Hendrik's blood turns to ice. Direction-finding vans? Reinforcements? A cordon? "Up," she says. Hendrik blinks. Up, Anika yanks the wardrobe aside. A hidden crawl space one of Amsterdam's old smuggler's tricks, repurposed now for war. Another drags the folder man toward the stairs, using him as a shield, brutal but effective. Hendrik freezes for one heartbeat. He looks at the radio dial glow. The song is still playing out there in the city, in kitchens and attics and barns. Anika shoves him. "Move, Hendrik." The passage smells of old mortar and mouse droppings. He hears the resistance fighters shifting furniture back into place. Then a new sound much closer now. A heavy fist on the building's front door. A shouted command in German. "Aufmachen." "Police." Open up. Police. Hendrik's breath catches. He crawls forward, body pressed tight in the dark, feeling every heartbeat thump against the bricks. Behind him, Anika slips in after him, pulling the panel shut. Darkness swallows them. And in that darkness, Hendrik hears the love song faintly. "If they caught Eurus," she says, the song becomes a trap. The wall panel settles into place with a soft, final click wood against brick merely louder than a breath. In the crawl space, darkness presses in so hard you feel it on your eyelashes. Hendrik lies flat, cheek against cold masonry, and tries to make his lungs quieter. Below, the front door shudders under another boot or fist followed by a sharper sound, the metallic bite of a tool against a lock. "Aufmachen," a voice bellows again. Closer now, angry. Anika shifts beside Hendrik, close enough that her shoulder brushes his. She smells like wet wool and bicycle oil. Her whisper is a thread in the black. No movement, she breathes. No coughing. If you feel you have to sneeze, you swallow it. Hendrik's throat tightens at the idea. It's absurd your body's smallest betrayals turned into death sentences. But that's occupation. That's how it works. You die because a floorboard creaks. You die because your stomach growls at the wrong time. Down in the room they just fled, the resistance fighters' reposition. Hendrik hears it not as words, but as a shift in the building's bones. A chair leg dragged an inch, a boot sole turning, the soft clink of a magazine seated into a weapon. Then the door gives, wood cracks. Voices surge into the entryway German commands, overlapping, clipped, and professional. Too many men. Too fast. This isn't a casual check. This is a net snapping shut. A beam of light slices under the crawlspace panel, for a moment flashlight sweeping, then disappears. Footsteps hit the stairs. Hendrik's pulse pounds so loud he's certain they'll hear it. In the room, a German voice barks. "Hand ho." Hands up. A beat of silence. Then another voice answers, in Dutch, calm as if ordering beer. "Rustig," the resistance man says. "Easy." Hendrik's mind tries to picture it. The sten pointed, the doorway covered, Germans filling the hall with pistols and flashlights and authority. One wrong twitch, and it becomes a slaughter. Then comes the sound Hendrik fears most. Not gunfire. Paper. Someone flipping pages. A German officer speaks with sudden satisfaction. Higher, Van der Meer. Here, Van der Meer. They're reading his name from a list. Anika's fingernails press into Hendrik's wrist hard, grounding him. So the interrogator wasn't bluffing. The list exists. Maybe not in Berlin. Maybe not 1,000 copies, but enough. A flashlight beam sweeps again, closer, and Hendrik feels heat through the thin gap in the panel, as if the light is trying to burn its way in. You, the German says in Dutch now, to someone in the room. Where is the transmitter? A pause. Then a voice answers a Dutchman, nervous. The landlord? Or the policeman? Ik read het niet. I don't know. A slap cracks. A body stumbles. Hendrik squeezes his eyes shut. You can almost feel the helplessness in your teeth, how it makes you want to bite down on something just to prove you still real. And through it all, faintly, impossibly, the love song continues leaking from somewhere out in the city, muffled by walls and distance, but still steady. Still on the air. Still telling people to run? Hendrik realizes something that makes his stomach drop harder than fear. If the Germans are here in force, they've likely already dispatched teams to the sectors encoded in the mistakes. The broadcast may have saved many, but it also painted targets church, bridge, dike, route if the wrong ears decode it. Unless the wrong ears are chasing the wrong thing. Anika's earlier warning returns, like a cold hand around Hendrik's heart. If they caught Joris, the song becomes a trap. The floorboards above creak with new weight someone moving toward the wardrobe. Hendrik can hear cloth brushing wood, a hand testing a panel, a searching patience. A voice mutters in German, irritated. Dies Wand seltsam. This wall strange. The flashlight beam lingers at the seam. Hendrik's lungs lock. His fingers curl, digging into brick until pain looms. Anika brings her mouth to his ear, so close her whisper is almost part of his thoughts. Listen to me, she says. If they open it, you don't fight. You don't scream. You go limp. You let them pull you. And when they look at me, only when they look at me, you run. Hendrik turns his head a fraction in the dark. He can't see her expression, but he hears it in her voice. She's already spending her own life like currency. He wants to refuse, to argue, to say no, but arguments are loud, and loud is death. A hand above scrapes along the wallpaper. The scene gives a faint complaint. Then, unexpectedly, a new sound rises from outside. Not engines this time. A church bell. One slow strike, heavy and wrong at this hour. Then another. Then, from farther away, a second bell answers, and a third like a city, waking up in alarm. The German officer freezes. In the room, a soldier swears. Another runs to the window. Boots pivot, suddenly uncertain. Amsterdam doesn't ring bells like that for nothing. Bells mean fire. Bells mean raid. Bells mean people flooding streets, witnesses, confusion, movement, a resistance tactic, a diversion big enough to pull the net sideways. And in that thin slice of chaos, Hendrik hears something else, layered beneath the bells and distant shouting. The song on the broadcast changes. Not to another tune. To the same tune played cleanly now. No mistakes. No early chorus. No held notes. A signal in its own right. Stop decoding. The first message has done its job. Now the pattern is being withdrawn before the Germans can use it. Hendrik's eyes widen in the dark. They didn't just warn the network. They anticipated the Gestapo's reaction and built an off switch. Above, the German officer barks orders. Raus! Sicherung! Jetzt! Out! Secure! Now, boots pound back toward the stairs. Someone shouts down to the street. Within seconds, the room is emptier. Not safe, never safe. But the pressure shifts, like a hand easing off your throat, just enough to let you breathe. Anika doesn't move yet. She waits, counting with the discipline of someone who's lived too long on thin margins. Hendrik forces himself to match her stillness. Finally, when the last set of boots fades down the stairwell and the building's front door bangs again, Anika exhales. "They took the bait," she whispers. Hendrik's voice comes out rough. "The bells whose idea?" Anika's answer is immediate, like she's proud and terrified at once. "Joris," she says. "He wired the bell rope to a bicycle dynamo and a timer. If he's still free, he's a genius. If he's caught," she swallows, "then they'll make him sing for them." Hendrik feels the crawl space tighten around him, because now he understands the true shape of the fight. The song code isn't just a clever trick. It's a living language. Anika presses her forehead briefly to the brick, then pulls back, decision hardening in her voice. "We have one night," she says. One night to move everyone before the Gestapo learns the second layer. Hendrik's mouth goes dry. "How many?" Anika's whisper is almost lost under the fading bells. "About 100, she says. She reaches for the panel latch. Hendrik's heart spikes again, not with fear now, but with the awful weight of responsibility, because the next time the song comes on, it won't just carry instructions. It will carry a choice. Trust it or doubt it. And if Hendrik gets that choice wrong, the melody that saved them will become the melody that delivers them. The panel begins to open. A sliver of light cuts into the crawl space. And somewhere out in the city, the love song starts its next verse.